Today on the Broadway Shuffle, a Texas Tech sports podcast. Should you doubt Texas Tech basketball without JT Toppin? And we break down the reveal of the top 16 seeds in March Madness and what that could mean for the Big 12's top teams. As always, I am Brennan Baxter. Please be joined by my co-host Clayton Anderson. We want to thank our sponsors for this episode, Wonder Tree and Hub City Body Shop, for always sponsoring and supporting us here at the Broadway Shuffle. And if this is your first time tuning in, whether on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple, if you would subscribe or follow, it is 100% free. We appreciate your support so much if you already have, but just double check and make sure, hit that alert button so you can always be notified when we are recording. We're with you every Monday and Thursday. Clayton, with that, man, it's good to see you again. We've spent the weekend in Lubbock together, and now here we are having to be remote. I'm a little sad, but nonetheless, here we are together to talk Tech sports.
I know. We're still in the studio, but this will do.
We had a live show on Friday in a studio at Wonder Tree. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that, we had Clay McGuire, Texas Tech's offensive line coach. He shared some great stories about the football team. We also had on Chris Level as well, too. So we had a ton of fun. Make sure to check that out on our YouTube channel if you haven't already. So, Clay, Texas Tech off a 100-72 win, took care of business against Kansas State at home. Some people were concerned going into that game, losing JT Toppin, the ACL injury news. What would Texas Tech come out and do? What would we look like without JT Toppin? What type of lineups would we see? You saw Luke Bamboya play a lot. You saw Akuntak get some good minutes. And you saw Donovan Atwell and Christian Anderson stay hot from three. Your thoughts on what Grant McCasland did with the lineup and how the team performed in their first game without JT Toppin?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty much everything you could ask for them for the first game. I feel like we kind of hit the nail on the head with what was going to happen with the guards, like just a lot more three-pointers, a lot more run and gun. I was a little surprised by the front court rotation with how he was kind of like using a platoon sub pattern with and like Akuntak played way more than I would have expected.
Agreed.
I don't know what his minutes were officially, but I would definitely said he played like 5 to 10 originally, but I think he definitely, I don't know, it felt like he played more than 10 minutes. And I thought he was actually serviceable, at least on the defensive end. He's definitely not going to give you much on offense, but I thought he rebounded well. He protected the rim pretty well. I think him and Bam can hold down the fort. I'm definitely not going to make too many sweeping generalizations after playing Kansas State because they are just terrible, but got to give them credit because I was a little concerned going into the game just with how it's going to look. And Kansas State looked good the last time out. So I thought it was a good showing.
Yeah, Akuntak had 16 minutes. Luke Bam had 22. So, up in both for those guys. And Texas Tech's going to need those guys to step up. But I liked what I saw out of Luke Bamboya. We were talking about it at the game. But 12-6 for him. He was active. He had a couple blocks. I thought that he had 3 blocks total. I thought that if you can get that type of level production, and I know it is Kansas State. We're not going to overreact to the fact that you beat the worst team in the Big 12 at home. But just to see the potential of those guys, it did make me feel a little more confident if you get into a win-and-go-home situation in March, which you will, that you might be able to steal a game against a team that maybe you wouldn't be expected to win. Did it give you more confidence seeing the front court play and seeing Akuntak get 16 minutes and Luke up his minutes to 22? Do you feel like that makes you more confident that Texas Tech could have a Sweet 16 or Elite 8 run?
I think Elite 8 would still be a stretch for me, but I'm definitely more confident in the team after yesterday than I was going into it. I still think you could see some potential issues if you play a team with like a really good post game, because I think that Bam was struggling a bit. Like to me,
offensively.
and just like straight up defense in the post. Like I feel like he's a better defender as like the help defender or just the low man than he is straight up like defending someone in the post. So I will be interested to see, I don't know how many, I'm trying to think of like post players that you're playing the rest of the season. But we'll see how that goes. But I mean, yeah, I think there was nothing that they did yesterday that made me more worried about the rest of the season.
Yeah. And I think one thing too that we were keeping an eye on was, what does Watts do? What does Atwell do? Right? How many more shots do they get up? And with Donovan Atwell, man, we talk about him every week. He's quickly become one of our favorite players on this entire team. And he got deep in his bag on Saturday afternoon. I mean, some floaters in the lane we haven't seen, a step back 3-pointer that I thought was gorgeous. if Donovan Atwell can give you more than just spot up three, which I don't know if Grant McCasland went to him and said, hey, you look for buckets in other ways. Like, don't just try to shoot threes all the time. Like, stay aggressive, attack off the dribble. That gives you another dynamic if he's able to do that. And the kid is playing with so much confidence right now. I don't know if I've ever seen a guy just think every single shot he takes is going in.
For sure, yeah. And that's how it feels as a fan too. Like that is so rare, but like if he gets an open look, I genuinely expect it to go in basically every single time.
Yeah.
And then you look at his percentage, I don't know what it is now, but I'm guessing it's around 45%. That actually feels like low to me. Like I feel like it should be higher, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was more in the game plan for him to hunt his shot more. And I think like the avenue for him to score inside the arc is definitely going to be there. With his reputation as a shooter, he's going to get aggressive closeouts all the time. And I think without Toppin the rest of the way, he's going to have to look for those. But obviously, if you can get him a spot up three, I'll take that any day of the week.
Yeah. And I mean, one thing I was so impressed with too was just his ability to move without the basketball. I'm seeing it in person, like being at the game and really just watching it, especially from where we were sitting. You're able to see the whole floor. I was like, okay, this guy is a creative offensive player outside of even when he has the ball in his hands. Like he knows which position to be in and to expect a pass from Christian or Petty or Watts. And I just think he's such a mature and wise. His IQ is very high. And congratulations to him for breaking the all-time 3-point season record, single season record there too. And just an awesome moment for him coming to this year. Just a huge hit from the portal for Grant. But I did want to get to Watts a little bit because we've had a lot of debates about Lawan Watts on this show, and rightfully so. But one of his most efficient and productive games, I thought. I know he had a couple turnovers, and he at times can still look a little lost. And it's just like, oh, there's a play that you expect him to kind of have. But overall, I was very impressed with him, and we saw him get to the post more and get to his spot, which is really important for Tech. And if they want to make a run, they're going to need him to step up too.
Yeah, 100%. I think you're going to see a lot more of him playing through the posts, which he's done throughout the year, but I think that's going to be more of a focal point. And yeah, I thought he played really well yesterday. I think you're going to need that from him. If you do want to make a Sweet 16, like we've talked about, he's going to have to be that second or third option. But yeah, I mean, I liked what I saw from him. I feel like he needs to just have more confidence on the spot of threes and just let it rip. Like he is open on that basically every time he catches the ball. Most of the time it's a pump fake. But I feel like at this point with where your offense is, you need guys who are just willing to shoot those, and like he can hit them. He made two in the corner. I guess one of them counted as a two because his foot was on the line. But I feel like that's where I want to see him. Like when he gets that kick out, I'd like him to just let it rip because I think he can hit those.
Yeah, there were two specific plays that I recall where I thought he should have shot. I was like, "What? Hey, man, shoot that!" And he didn't. And then he hit two after those. And I thought, just shooting with confidence, we're going to need that without JT Toppin. It sucked seeing JT at the game too, man, just in street clothes. And it was still really depressing. I think the USA, it felt a little bit, yes, maybe it was the opponent and the fact that you were crushing them, but it did feel a little low comparatively. Like I think everyone was a little sad just knowing that JT Toppin wasn't going to be there. But you're 1-0 without him. You got to still play the games and take care of that. Christian Anderson started pretty slow. I mean, we were looking at the box score up on the Jumbotron. It was, I had 7 points, I think 4 assists, and we're kind of like, what a subpar game from Christian so far, not doing much. He finishes with like 21-9. Do you feel like him, Watts, and Atwell give you enough offensively without JT Toppin? I know it's one game, but to compete with the upper echelon in college basketball still. So you got Iowa State coming up on Saturday. You have a BYU game still left on your schedule. Do you think those three, when playing well, are still good enough to beat those types of teams?
I think if those three are playing to their like A game level, then yes. But I still am a little concerned about, because we've seen Watts have plenty of off games, and I'm concerned about teams that just decide to take Atwell out. Like, not that you can do that, but there's going to be teams who defend him better than K-State did, obviously. And then it's like, do you have enough? You have Petty who can create his own shot, but I guess that's where my concern still lies because you're not going to find that out against Kansas State. They're just not good on defense. But I think, the rest of the teams on your schedule, I think you can compete with. Iowa State's obviously going to be tough in Hilton. their defense is also really good. But I think you can, even BYU on the road, even though they just beat Iowa State at home. Like, I think you can compete in all those games from your team right now offensively.
How do you think we stack up against Cincinnati on Tuesday? Like, in the Cincinnati team, dude, they just beat Kansas in Allen Fieldhouse. They've won 4 straight. They've got some big buds on their roster. What do you expect from that, and what this team and how that might look on Tuesday night?
Dude, yeah, I honestly have no clue. Like, I think I've watched Cincinnati once. I didn't get to catch any of that Kansas game since it was at the same time as the Tech game. But you're definitely playing them at the wrong time. Like you said, they're super hot. Wes Miller's coaching for his job, similar to Bobby Hurley. You saw how that one went. So I'm hoping that with it being at home, like I think you needed this game against Kansas State, specifically for Watts and Petty. They had been really struggling. I think you needed to get back home and get right. Hopefully that translates. I think if it does, then you can definitely beat Cincinnati. But yeah, I mean, they're super hot. They just dominated Kansas. I do think they obviously have the size advantage. I still am confident. I think, like I said, I think those guys will play well with it being at home, and I expect to win, but I think it'll be obviously a hard fought game with the way that Cincinnati's playing.
Yeah, it's going to be a great test for your bigs, for Akuntak and Bemboye, and I do think that this is a game for Texas Tech. You talked about, you said it walking out of the USA on Saturday, that this was a good get-right game for Tech, and I thought that was a great point. Like, hey, it happened. JT Toppin's out. Nothing we can do about it. Let's go drop 100, and have fun and play well and get back into a flow offensively and just move on from the Arizona State game. And I think they did that, and now you get a good test for Luke and Akuntak and figuring out how can you guys stack up against 7-footers. And you're not going to expect a ton offensively from them, but can they compete on the defensive side of the ball? And I do think that they can do that. I was very impressed with the lateral movement from these guys. I was very impressed with the vertical defense from Luke specifically. And I feel like it gives you a lot. I don't think Texas Tech's going to play a look-ahead game anymore. I know you've got the Iowa State game on Saturday, but I do think that Grant is just going to have these guys really focus on one game at a time from here on out. Like, you can't get up for a certain opponent and not be ready to go against another. And I think the Arizona State game will settle this team down to an extent, and getting that win was huge too. I did, before we look around to the Big 12, because I do want to get into Kansas losing to Cincy and Iowa State, BYU, and then obviously Houston and Zona, but I did want to shout out our Hub City Body Shop play of the game. It's time for the impact play of the game. Proud supporters of Texas Tech, big plays come with big hits, and if your car ever takes one, Hub City knows how to fix it. So, Clayton, there was one play I wanted to shout out, and I think you might know where I'm going with this, but I nudged you and I said, man, we're not doing many lobs this game. Like, we're not finding Luke on the pick and roll. Then sure enough, about 2 plays later, Christian Anderson lobs one up to Luke, and he slams it home. And so the alley-oop from Christian Anderson to Bam is the Hub City Body Shop play of the game for Texas Tech. It made me so happy, man. It reminded me of Tariq Owens a little bit. Like, we finally saw, a really good pick and roll there. And maybe that's another dimension you can add to your game as well, too. And so I'm looking forward to seeing more of that. But that was your Hub City Body Shop impact play of the game. So let's get to the Big 12, Kansas and Cincy. Let's go to this one first, Clay, because Darren Peterson ends up putting over 30 minutes. He actually plays in the game. And Kansas loses by 20. And that helps Texas Tech in terms of a standings perspective. You can argue if that helps you long-term because Kansas beats you and you might want them to look as good as possible. But your thought on where the Jayhawks are at after that loss?
Dude, I think the narratives coming from Kansas is super interesting right now with Darren Peterson. The whole minutes thing, the cramps. I saw like some pictures circulating of where 4 guys are huddled up on a free throw and he's like at half court by himself. I don't know like what the context was around that photo, but I think it's obviously tough for Bill Self to coach because he's kind of having to coach like 2 separate teams in a way. And like you said, like Darren Peterson played most of this game. So it's not like you can really blame it on that, but I think it is just a difficult dynamic of like, when he's on the court, he's clearly like your first option. Most of your offense runs through him. When he's off, it's like a lot more balanced. So I think if I was a player in that situation, I do think it would be tough to know like when to be aggressive. And then when he comes on the court feeling like, oh, I got to feed him now. I think it creates a tough dynamic with their current roster. I still think they're good. But that was a shocking loss for me. Like Kansas losing to an unranked team at home. That just doesn't happen very often.
It was one of their worst losses in school history, especially I think since Bill Self got there. I think since 2003, it was the largest defeat they've had at home.
And it creates a super interesting dynamic for tomorrow playing Houston. Like either they are going to lose back-to-back at home or Houston's going to lose 3 straight.
And I did want to talk about that game because we're recording this on a Sunday night. We'll be listening to this on a Monday, and the Houston-Kansas game is tonight on Monday. And Houston sitting at 11-3 in the Big 12, Kansas at 10-4, and a 3-way tie with you and Iowa State. And so with you getting Cincinnati at home on Tuesday and that game happening tomorrow, there is a way that you could be playing for potentially the second seed in the Big 12 come Tuesday night. If Kansas or if Houston loses and you win, I mean, this is still there for Texas Tech right now. It's a finish in the top 4 and get a double bye. So who would you be rooting for as a Tech fan? Are you wanting to see Kansas keep falling, or do you feel like Houston dropping their 3rd straight helps you out more?
I feel like I'm probably rooting for a Kansas loss because I think you're going to end up competing with Kansas for that 4th spot. And I think even if Houston does lose, like this is the last game on their schedule that they're going to lose. They don't really have any tough games, at least from my eyes. I think, for me personally, like without JT, I'm kind of throwing out the, like 2nd or Big 12 winner. I think I'm shooting for that 4th seed, so you get the bye. So I'd probably root for a Houston win.
And I would agree with you because Kansas does have to go at Arizona on Saturday after this game. So there's another potential loss. And they do have the kind of what Texas Tech had. They have the Saturday game at Arizona, the Tuesday game at Arizona State. We've seen how that's gone. So there is a chance for Kansas to maybe get on a little losing streak here where Houston does finish with Colorado, Baylor, and Oklahoma State. So
they're not going to lose.
They're not losing those games. So all right, so go Jayhawks then for tonight. Iowa State and BYU, Clay. We were watching that game together. AJ Dybasta, one of our members of the Broadway Shuffle here, Zyler Buchanan, thinks this guy's trash. Me and you watching this game thought this guy could arguably be the number 1 pick, and it might not even be close after how he looked last night. Texas Tech still has a game at BYU, and then they obviously play at Iowa State on Saturday. Your thoughts on those 2 teams where they stack up, and can Dybasta lead BYU to a Final Four?
I'll say no on that. I think he could have if Richie Saunders didn't tear his ACL, but like he's playing 40 minutes, which Tech fans obviously know about with Christian and JT. And like on offense, it's really him and Rob Wright creating everything. Like there's other guys who are finishing plays, but those 2 are having to create all the offense. I don't think that's sustainable for a Final Four run. But I definitely think like if they get a 6 seed or like a 5 seed, I guess let's say they get a 5 seed. They got to
move up after Iowa State win, right? Yeah,
for sure. I would not want to see them as a 1 seed just because that guy can go for like 40 points and end your season right there. So I think they're dangerous, but I don't expect them in the Final Four.
Yeah, dude. I mean, he was unreal last night in a game where you felt like they had to have it to kind of just. They're going to make the tournament, but to just show that they are still around and can be taken as a contender. And Dybasta showed us why. I mean, he's a phenomenal player, and I'm scared to play them in Provo in a week and a half. Like especially if he looks like that, there's no answer for a guy like that. Yeah. You mentioned Houston when we talk about Kansas in that game tonight, but the game against Arizona on Saturday, with Arizona winning that game, it did drop Houston to 3 losses. But as we just talked about, we're confident that regardless of the Kansas result, they'll finish 3-0 to end the year. So that puts Texas Tech, Iowa State, and Kansas all at 10-4. With Texas Tech's schedule rest of the way, do you have any sort of confidence that Texas Tech will receive a double bye? So like, do you feel like there's a way they could split Iowa State and BYU? And do they have to do that to finish as a top 4 seed in the Big 12?
I do think we have to do that to finish as a top 4 seed because we have 4 losses right now, right?
Yep, we're 10. So we're 10-4. Iowa State is 10-4, and Kansas is 10-4 in the Big 12. So we're all in a tied for 3rd right now.
Okay, yeah, I do feel like you have to go, or at least I would expect you have to go 13-5 to get top 4, and I think that's doable for Tech. I definitely think the BYU game is the more likely win. I think Iowa State's defense is just going to be really tough, especially for Christian. I feel like they're going to just trap him all day. But I think you could get the BYU one done. You just need to shoot it well and have similar defensive success against Tabonsa as you did in Lubbock earlier this season, which I think is possible.
Yeah, and that game against BYU on the 7th is a 9:30 at night game on Saturday in Provo. So that's going to be tough. I do think if you just take care of your home games with Cincy and TCU, it does just keep you in that opportunity, regardless of what Kansas does too, because you're just there. Like 12, I do think that 12-6 gives you a slim chance with what Kansas has left on the schedule. If they lose to Houston and Arizona, there's an opportunity there still as well too. But Kansas does have the head-to-head win, so that's something to look out for.
That's tough, and like you only play Iowa State once too, so if you lose that, you don't have the tiebreaker with either of those teams.
If you go 2-0 this week, and we'll obviously talk a lot about the Iowa State game on Thursday's episode when we have the full crew back here. We're missing Conrad and Zyler tonight. That game would almost secure you, in a way, a top 4 spot if you're able to knock off Iowa State, because they still have to go at Arizona. So there's another loss potential on their schedule. I know Iowa State's capable of beating them, but the Big 12, man, just week to week still, even without JT Toppin, Texas Tech right in the thick of things. But this league is so freaking tough. I mean, week in, week out. There's matchups like this. It just could completely alter the league. And also the top 16 teams, which, Clayton, that's kind of one I wanted to get to next, was that March Madness reveals their top 16 teams. And I think a lot of us as Texas Tech fans were a little surprised to hear how the committee was viewing us at this point, that we would have been a 3 seed had JT Toppin not been injured, but we were the first 4 seed. And I think a lot of us had been talking about, and here on the show, well, you might drop to a 5, maybe a 6, depending on how the season goes, if they don't respect you without JT Toppin. But they did tell us, at least to this point, that they feel like what we've done so far this year is worthy of the first 4 seed in the tournament. Your thoughts on where they had Tech slotted, and is there an opportunity for Texas Tech to move to a 3 seed still?
Yeah, I was definitely surprised. Like you said, I feel like I thought that we were kind of like one of the first 2 4s if JT Toppin was still healthy, and I thought that they might drop us down to a 5 with him being out. But hearing that we were a 3, even with the ASU loss, and they dropped us to the first 4 with him out, I was surprised. But I don't know. I think that's the right call. Like, obviously, if these last 5 games, if we had just looked horrible without JT, then it's very justified to drop us a couple seeds. But before any of those games had even taken place, like I feel like I would have been upset if they dropped us just on the expectation that we're going to fall off a cliff without him. I think you got to wait and let the games play out. And I think being number 13 overall sets you up where if you just take care of the home games the rest of the way, even if you drop Iowa State and BYU, I think you can still get a 5 seed, which I think would be, all things considered, like a success on the season, knowing that you played a 30-year Big 12 slate without the best player in the conference.
I totally agree, dude. And reading the seating, this was just so crazy to me because Iowa State was also a 1. Now they lost to BYU, so that could change, but you get Iowa State on Saturday.
Yeah.
If you beat Iowa State, you will have beaten 3 of the projected 1 seeds at the time that they had released it. And Duke, Arizona, and Iowa State. You will have beaten a 2 seed in Arizona and Houston, lost to 2 other 2 seeds in Illinois and Purdue. And you will have played Kansas, another 3 seed, who you lost to by 3. That's half of the top 16 that you've played and either beaten or lost to. That's insane. Like that's what your schedule has been, and it shows the depth of what college basketball is right now. But when I saw that released, I'm like, man, that's crazy. The Big 12, the 3rd overall seed, 4th overall seed, 6th overall seed, 10th overall seed, and 13th overall seed out of 16.
Yeah, it's crazy. I do think that was one part that kind of hurt on the JT news. It's like this team is so battle tested. Like you play this ridiculously tough schedule, both non-conference and in the Big 12, and then your best player goes down after you're through like most of it. Like, you know, you obviously had the Iowa State and BYU games, but you've already gotten through most of it. It's just kind of like something got taken from you. But yeah, I mean, it's insane. The wins that Tech has, and then also like the quality losses that, you know, SEC football loves to talk about. Like,
Yeah.
it's just absurd.
If we were an SEC football team here, man, we'd be getting a first round bye for sure. You know, it wouldn't be comparable. But I credit to Grant McCasland. There's one thing we talked about earlier in the year, or actually before the season, where we were like, we think that Grant believes he has a very good team, or he wouldn't have scheduled Duke and the Bahamas trip in Purdue and Illinois on the road. Like, he wanted these guys to be battle tested, and sure enough, here we are, March right around the corner, and they accomplished their goal. They won some of them, they lost some of them, but ultimately it made this team a lot better. I don't think you'd lose by 30 to Purdue if you played them. Well, maybe without Toppin, I don't know, but just such a different team in February than you were in November. And to have Texas Tech be in this top 16 is just such a credit to Coach McCasland and what this coaching staff was able to do with the guys on this roster. Because in November, I was getting a lot of texts from a lot of Red Raiders saying, are we ass at basketball? Like, does this team suck? And I'm like, can you talk to me in February? Like, it's not about what you do in November. And sure enough, Texas Tech basketball proved a lot of people wrong. And that's great for them. But we'll see, man. Still huge games in front of you, an opportunity to move forward if you can. And I think regardless at this point, in my opinion, it's just about getting in. Like, it truly is just about seeing what happens, let the chips fall where they do. You never know in a bracket of 68 teams what happens. You could end up playing a 13 seed or a 14 seed in the second round. It's always there for something crazy to happen in this tournament. And fortunately, you've been on the right side of it a lot in the last 7 years, but you've also been the team that got upset, and that just can happen. And Texas Tech is hoping for chaos within their bracket and within their region, but there's still an opportunity for them to make some noise in March. And I think that's all we could really ask for at this point. So,
100%.
All right. Well, before we get to our Tommy Tubervilles of the week, and we've got some good ones this week. Business owners, real quick, if your marketing strategy is we'll figure it out later, Wonder Tree, based in Lubbock, exists for a reason. Strategy, ads, creative, all handled. We want to thank Wonder Tree not only for sponsoring this episode, but for allowing us to do live shows in their studio in Lubbock. They do a phenomenal job there. So if you're ever interested in recording or doing anything with video, reach out to Wonder Tree as well. They're awesome, and they're so much fun, and we appreciate them for supporting us here on the Broadway Shuffle. So, Clayton, with that, let's close this episode of the Broadway Shuffle with our Tommy Tubervilles of the week. I'll go to you first, and I think a lot of Red Raiders are going to enjoy your Tommy of the week.
Yeah, this one will definitely hit close to home. My Tommy is Chris Beard. Ole Miss just lost their 9th game in a row this weekend to Florida. They got blown out. He is clearly panicking. There was a couple games ago after they had lost like 5 or 6 in a row. All his coaches started showing up to games in suits again rather than the quarter zips. He's got his best player coming off the bench, just trying to push any button that he can. They're currently ranked 82nd in KenPom. They're behind Utah Valley, George Washington, and Yale. And their last win was January 17th. It's been over a month since they won a game. So, Chris Beard, you are my Tommy of the week.
Oh, man, that's a good one. You know, we had a lot of people suggest that we change the name of the Tommy of the week to the Chris Beard of the week. And why don't we just incorporate both of them? Yeah. Not a bad suggestion, but when you can incorporate both of them, it works pretty well too. And yeah, it's weird to see Chris losing because he doesn't do that very often. Yeah. He typically has success wherever he goes. So it is weird. And the team last year, I believe they made the Sweet 16 a year ago. Didn't they? I mean, so
was that last year or 2 years ago?
I think it was last year they made the Sweet 16. So, and they lost to, I can't remember who they lost to, but yeah, they've made it with him at Ole Miss, regardless if it was last year. Fact check me on that, someone in the comments. But yeah, just weird. But I'm not complaining about it. I'm for sure not complaining about it. Mark Adams as well too, sitting there next to him. So, sorry, fellas. You know, enjoy your early off season there in Oxford. Well, man, mine is a patriotic one. It is the Canadian hockey team for losing to the almighty USA, man. What a moment. What a patriotic moment for America, for our hockey team, winning the gold medal over Canada. And if you're Canada, man, and hockey's your sport, and hockey's the 4th largest sport here in our country, and you can't even take home the gold, you deserve a Tommy. And I'm honored to hand out a Tommy to the Canadian national hockey team for a 2nd place finish and for losing in overtime. Hughes with an awesome goal. If you haven't seen the highlights of it, regardless if you like hockey or not, it gives you chills just seeing America win their first gold in hockey since the Miracle on Ice in 1980, which is an awesome documentary. If you have Netflix, I would encourage anyone to watch that too. But the Canadian hockey team is my Tommy of the week, Clay.
Well deserved. And same thing with the women's too.
Yes, the women's hockey team with a gold over Canada too. Canada just can't do anything right, man. Sorry if there's any Canadians that are listening to the show. They'll probably unsubscribe. But most of our viewers are American, so I assume they will have enjoyed the USA winning gold.
Yeah, but very true, but well deserved.
Well deserved. So we will be back on Thursday. Clayton, Conrad, and Zyler and I will all be here to preview the Iowa State matchup over the weekend. We'll get into some more Texas Tech basketball stuff. We'll talk a little bit Tech baseball, softball. There's other sports going on as well, too. The baseball team had a good weekend, hopefully turning things around, and softball continues to stay hot. So we have a lot to get into. And then football, Clay, right around the corner. Spring football is coming up close. We can't wait to get into our position preview breakdowns, some Big 12 look ahead. So make sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify and Apple if you have not already. It is 100% free. We appreciate your support so much. You can find us on social media at the Broadway Shuffle on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter. We also have a Discord channel, Clayton, that I will hint at potentially, where you can reach us 24/7 for free on Discord. So be on the lookout for that. We also have merchandise in the link in the description below if you want to support us and rep a Broadway Shuffle polo. So for Clayton Anderson, I am Brennan Baxter, Reckham Tech, and we will see you all on Thursday here on the Broadway Shuffle.
He makes the catch. He's going